Hey y'all, it's Care. Today we have a book haul, and I have to say this is the biggest book haul that I've ever had. I've never accumulated this many books within such a short amount of time. I think I've got every genre except for nonfiction covered, so if you want to check out all of the timestamps in the description of this video, if you have a certain genre you're looking out for, I will have everything grouped by category there. Before we start, I want to say that most of these books are actually thrifted. There is a secondhand bookshop that isn't too far away from where I live. That shop has the best deals I've ever seen. I could get a brand new hardcover for like $2 to $4. It is insane the type of deals they push out there. I've really been trying to support local recently, but I also have been buying stuff from like Target and Walmart, so I'm probably not gonna mention where I got each and every book just for time's sake. I don't want this video to be an hour and a half long, but if it is thrifted and if I got like a really insane deal on it, I'll try to show you. The first genre we want to talk about is one of my favorite genres. It's just straight up literary fiction. These are just some fiction books that I have hauled recently and want to show you. The first is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I've only read Beartown by Frederick Bachman, but it's been one of my favorite books of 2020, so I'm very excited about Anxious People. Some of my best friends here on BookTube have read this book, loved this book, given it 5 stars, and like really pushed it on me very hard. So I have it now. This book involves a hostage situation at an apartment complex, I think, and if it's anything like Bachman's other works, it's going to be character driven, it's going to be snappy but also really sad. I've heard this is a tearjerker, so I'm really excited to get to it. Next is The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. This is one of the wonderful deals I was talking about. This book is in absolute mint condition. It's a beautiful hardback book, and if you see here, I don't know if you can see that because of the glare, but it was only $2.95. This one kind of rides that fine line between science fiction and speculative fiction, so I've just put it in the literary fiction genre here. It's about this young woman who has been recently widowed, and the daughter that she is carrying, she finds out has a heart defect, and so then there's this proposition. I think that time travel is gonna like somehow be incorporated into this book. I don't read much about time travel. It's either time travel or like alternate realities. I'm not really sure, but it sounds really good. Gabby from Gabby Reads gave this 5 stars, so it's been on my radar for a while. I was so excited when I saw it at the store the other day. This is another used book that I got, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I feel like this book has been everywhere recently, and I just had FOMO. I don't really have any immediate plans to read this, but just hearing everyone else talk about how it's the perfect quintessential fall read, I wanted to join in with the fun. I think it's about a group of scholarly students who starts committing crimes. I feel like this kind of reminds me of the Dead Poets Society, maybe? Just the atmosphere of it, not the plot or anything, but that's one of my favorite movies. And I did start The Goldfinch, also by Donna Tartt, a little while back, and I really love her style. So I think that this one could be a new favorite once I do get around to it. Next I have Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. This is also a book about a hostage situation, but I don't know too much about it. This is, I think, gonna be a really heavy hitter. It's been on one of those like lifetime TBRs for me, since I do love books that can be kind of identified as like a modern classic. I feel like this comes up a lot in those conversations. Then this one is from the used bookstore as well. I thought it sounded so weird, and I don't even know, when I looked it up on Goodreads, I really can't tell what genre this is. It's not nonfiction, but it's written like nonfiction. It's called Hotels of North America by Rick Moody. So it says a novel on the front, so I'm just putting it in this fiction genre for now. But it's just the life of this man, but he's a travel blogger or like a travel writer, and so you're getting his life story but through the things that he has written about all these different hotels where he has stayed in, so we just kind of follow his life through these reviews. This sounds super weird, but it also sounds like something that would be up my alley. And lastly, for literary fiction, we have White Noise by Don DeLillo. I read this for my modern and contemporary lit class when I was in college, but you know when you're reading something for college and it's assigned, and if you miss a few chapters and then you go back to read, like, I don't know, I don't think I read this book in full, but I did read enough of it for me to know that I really liked it. And I even remember as I was reading, I was like, wow, if I wasn't having to like read this for school while I'm so busy, I think if I just sat down and read it, I would really enjoy this book. So another used bookstore find. It has deckled edges. I really love the cover. Let's go ahead and move on to historical fiction. First is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This is a front runner for my very favorite book of 2020. I read this earlier this summer on my Kindle, but I loved it so much that I really wanted this book while the hardback is in stores. I have The Mothers by Britt Bennett in hardback as well, and I think the spines just will look so nice on my shelves. I highly recommend this book, and if you want to hear me talk more about it, I will link one of the many videos where I've mentioned it and discussed it in the cards above now. Next is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne, which was on my 2020 TBR that I did at the end of last year. This was a sale book at Walmart, y'all. It's a hardcover. It's beautiful. This book follows our protagonist, Cyril Avery, just over the course of his entire life. I'm not sure how Cyril identifies, but he's part of the LGBTQ+ community, I believe, and I think the book is all about how he changes as a person over the course of his life, but also how the community around him changes as well. I think it sounds really hard-hitting and really strong. I also thrifted The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and to be quite honest, I really don't know what this book is about, other than I also see this one floating around on everybody's fall recommendations videos. I think it's about a young boy who's on this quest to find the author of his favorite book that's maybe not in publication anymore. I think it's like that book within a book trope. I love that. So it didn't take much for me to be sold on this when I saw it at the shop for like $2. And lastly, Miss Benson's Beetle by Rachel Joyce. This sounds so cute, so wholesome. It's about female friendship. These two women who are trying to, like, they're on this race to be the first people to discover this beetle. And as if the plot didn't sell me enough, I saw the cover and was like, I must have this. This is so stunning. I hope everyone can see. Pink and orange are two of my favorite colors, and also the yellow there, which is my favorite color. I'm in love with this book. I cannot wait to read it. Okay, let's briefly touch on fantasy here. I only have 2 books to haul in this genre just because it's typically outside of my comfort zone, but the first one is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which is about this magical social worker who has to go work with these really dangerous children, and I know that it's all about found family and acceptance and loving yourself, and I think that it's gonna be a really fun November read. I'm reading this for the Page Turner Book Club. I'm so excited to get to it. This is another one that I love the cover. I actually purchased this pretty much as a cover buy before I even knew it was gonna be this month's pick, so very ready, very ready. Another one that's just a cover by The Hazel Wood by Melissa Albert. I think that this is YA. As if fantasy wasn't outside of my comfort zone enough, YA is also something that I don't typically read, but I do enjoy it when I pick it up. I think we have an alternate reality here, maybe, but it's about a young girl who has to save her mother who has disappeared into this mysterious Hazel Wood. Let's do horror. Let's go ahead and talk about horror. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 horror books to haul here. Let's talk about The Apartment by S.L. Gray. It didn't take much for this book to be sold for me. It's about a young family who moves into a haunted apartment. Like, sold, for real. I think the author's gonna parallel like the crumbling marriage with the hauntings, so that could be kind of interesting. I actually had to order this one, Confessions by Kanae Minato. It's been on my radar for so long, but I couldn't find it anywhere. It's about this teacher who is very convinced that one of her students is responsible for the death of her child, and so she tries like cornering the class into confessing like who is responsible for the murder. It's supposed to be really intense from what I've heard, and it's also really short, so we know that I love short books here on this channel. I feel bad putting this in my haul video because I've actually talked about it in a lot of my recent videos, but I never officially hauled it. It's Misery by Stephen King. If you want to watch any of the videos where I've talked about it up here, they're linked now. Same thing goes for The Venue by TJ Payne. I had to order this one because I really wanted it and I couldn't find it anywhere. It's about this wedding that takes place in an isolated setting, and once people are all trapped together, I think they start killing each other. So kind of like Battle Royale, but at a wedding. Oh, I am so excited about this one. It's Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris, but it's the 25th anniversary edition. This was one of my very favorite books when I first read it in high school, and it is my all-time favorite movie. I watch it all the time. But the first time that I read this, I read it on my Kindle, so I've never had a physical copy, and when I saw this one with the deckled edges and like the purple on it with the yellow on the black spine, I just had to have it. I'm so excited to add it to my collection. And the last one for horror is one that I've already started, and it is actually very scary. So for everyone who reads a lot of horror but doesn't actually get scared, so far so good with The Devil of Nanking by Mo Hader. This is about a young English woman who is really obsessed with the massacre of Nanking, which actually is a real massacre, like in the real world. This actually happened in history. But in this book, she's so obsessed with this book that she had read about really detailed and disgusting things that happened to the people of Nanking. So she travels across the world to go to Tokyo to talk to this professor who she either thinks was there or who knew about all of these horrible things that happened there. And when she gets there, she realizes that she kind of has to stay for a while, so she gets a job at this nightclub that has really shady people who come in and out. That's about as far as I've made it into the book so far, and I'm only on page 54. I really wanted to finish this in October because it's actually really scary, but it's taken me a while to read because I keep getting so creeped out. Okay, moving right along into mysteries and thrillers. The first one is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I need to hurry up and read this book because I really want to watch the Netflix adaptation, and my mom does too. She's already read Rebecca and has been recommending it to me for years, but I'm kind of waiting on the audiobook hold to come in from the library because I've tried starting this a few times. It is a classic, so it's not super bingeable. When I sit down to read, it's kind of easy for me to put down. I feel like this is one of the OG creepy gothic ghost stories, and I really want to get it under my belt before the end of the year. Next is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is a YA mystery that was really highly recommended to me by Jess from Books Past Bedtime. She completely convinced me to get this book. I am really excited to start it. It's about this high school girl who decides to reopen or investigate this cold case that involved some of her former classmates. Someone was murdered, and I think she's doing all of this for a final project. It sounds wild, but I think it's going to be really page turning. It has mixed media. The words are really big on the page, and it's also, like, I don't know, I just feel like it's not going to take me that long once I sit down to read it. Next, I got this one off the sale rack at Walmart. Again, you guys know how I feel about the sale rack at Walmart. I'd never heard of this book, The French Girl by Lexi Elliott, but when I read what the book was about, it reminded me of a movie that I watched a few years ago that I kind of liked. This is about a group of friends who vacations in France for, I want to say, like a week or something, and while they're there, they meet the French girl, and then when they leave, like by the time they leave, she has gone missing. And now in the present day, they all get a call that they found her body and that she had actually died while they were on that trip all those years ago. I don't know, this sounded like a really good thriller. I don't know why, like, I've never heard of it before. It seems to be kind of underrated. That might be because it sucks, I don't know, but I'm kind of like eager to give it a try to see what it's all about. Next is The Chain. I just full on purchased this book from Target because I want to buddy read this with Hailey and Jess. Y'all hit me up whenever you want to start, just let me know. And the chain in the title here is referring to this chain of child kidnapping. So a mother will get a call that her child has been kidnapped, and the only way to get her child back is if that mother kidnaps someone else's child, and if that mother can kidnap someone else, apparently then they'll get their child back. So that just sounds insane, but I'm here for it. Next, I got Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. I really, really want to like Lisa Jewell. I read Watching You last year and it was fine. I don't think that one was for me. And then I tried The Family Upstairs earlier this year. I didn't officially DNF it or anything, but I just wasn't really feeling it at the time that I tried to read it. So I'm hoping Invisible Girl is gonna be for me. I actually don't know what this book is about at all, but if you've read this book and you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. I feel like Hailey really loved this one. I don't know. I think this is the one she said. I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna try it. I think we're getting back into things I thrifted now because I got Pines and Wayward by Blake Crouch. This is a series. I put it in this mystery thriller genre. I think that they also teeter on the edge of science fiction, but it's about this FBI agent who has to go to this really small town, and he's searching for these two like missing federal agents. And then once he gets there, he gets into an injury. He gets injured. I don't know what the injury, like, I don't know what happened to this man. But when he wakes up, things are just really, really weird. And he just knows something is off. It just sounds so good and so creepy. Thrifted both of these for very cheap at the secondhand bookshop. I also hauled The Night the Lights Went Out by Karen White. This is another one of my very favorite books I've read this year in 2020. I just sent my copy to Hailey. I have just been talking about Hailey and Jess nonstop in this video. Y'all go subscribe to both of them, please. Just stop watching this video, go subscribe. But I sent her my copy just to have. And then when I was at the used bookstore the other day, they had this one for like $2 and it's a little hardcover and it's so cute, so I just went ahead and bought it back. And lastly, I have The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This is about a man who meets a woman at an airport, and he kind of at first is like, I'm mad at my wife, I kind of want to kill my wife, and I think that she's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. That was such an aggressive description of what this book is, but that's how everyone else explains it, and then they always cut off with like, and then I'm not gonna tell you anything else about it because it'll get spoiled for you. So I guess we're leaving it at that. I'm not gonna know until I actually read it, but I love the cover. I love anything that's yellow. I love the yellow on my shelves. All right, congratulations everyone. You've made it to the last genre that I have to talk about. This is also the genre that has collected the most books, and that is romance. Most of these are contemporary romance. I would probably classify all of them as romantic comedies. So Buckle up, because I feel like I'm about to get judged. Not the content, just the sheer quantity. Number of romance books I hauled. First is In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I love this author duo. They're kind of a hit or miss for me, but like their misses are never lower than 3 stars. So I've started this. I'm on page 72. I have a little secret TBR video that this is a part of. I'm not going to tell you what else is in the secret TBR, but they're also in this pile. It's gonna be really obvious, but that's okay. This is about a girl who gets stuck in a time loop in the holidays. It's about her family that goes up to this cabin every year with all of their very close family friends. And at the end of the trip, they all find out that this is gonna have to be their last Christmas together. And then while she's on her way home, her family's in a car accident. And when she wakes up, she's actually on the plane going back to the cabin. So that is the beginning of the time loop. And then from there, things just keep looping. I'm not that far into it, but that's what I know so far. It's cute so far. I'm a sucker for this kind of thing. Also, another Christina Lauren book that I very recently hauled. It's called My Favorite Half Night Stand. I have already read this book. I devoured this book earlier this week, actually. Maybe it was last week, but this reminds me of a subplot in New Girl that I would have been really down for. It's about this woman who's kind of quirky, but she's friends and she works with all of these guys and they're all really close. This main woman, whose name is Millie, of course, likes one of the guys a little bit more than the others. She's just closer with him and she's always thought it was because they were just best friends. But maybe they're more than best friends. And then they all have to sign up for this dating app for this weird like competitive competition thing they're doing amongst themselves. Well, it's not really a competition, but it's like a challenge, I guess, that they're all trying to find these dates on. It's not Tinder, but it's something similar. And there's just a lot of angst, but there's also really good friendships in this book. I thought it was really good. I think I gave it 4 stars, but you're gonna have to check out my wrap up at the end of the month to see my full thoughts. Next, I got The Bromance Book Club by Lisa K. Adams. I feel like I'm late to the party on this, but this is about a guy trying to save his marriage by getting tips from reading fun romance books. So he and these other guys start this like secret book club, like a romance book club, and it sounds really fun. I feel like everyone gives this book 5 stars, so I'm down. I'm so excited for it. Next is The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bay something. The sticker's covering up her last name. Bayless, Jenny Bayless. I think this is about a girl getting set up to go on 12 dates around Christmas time. I love the cover. This is such a seasonal read though, so if I don't read this in either this month or in December, I'm gonna have to wait another year because this isn't really the type of book I'd want to read anytime except for November, December. I also have You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria. I'm very excited for this. I love the color. I love the colors here. This is like a romantic comedy following 2 telenova soap opera stars. It sounds really original. I've definitely never read anything like this. And speaking of things I've never read anything like, I have Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore. And this is a historical romance. And this is the first book in the League of Extraordinary Women series, so I'm hoping it's gonna be fun and feminist. I think there's gonna be a really strong female lead, which is always amazing. Next is A Lesson in Thorns. I'm covering her up here because this is a family-friendly channel. I think this is gonna be a little more than I bargained for. I thought this was gonna be like fun romance, and I think it's gonna be more intense than that. Just kidding. When I first bought it, I thought that this was a horror book, like a thriller or something. I thought it was scary. I was sadly mistaken. Well, not sadly, but I was mistaken. I didn't know. I really am such a sucker for anytime people are friends in childhood and then they're also either friends as adults or they come back into each other's lives as adults. Dennis Lehane wrote Mystic River, which had that, and then also It by Stephen King. I loved those books, and then I guess I was just thinking A Lesson in Thorns was the same thing. It is not. Now look at this cute cover, A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Amanda Collins. I've never heard of this book, and it actually sounds like it reminds me of that Bringing Down the Duke book that I just showed you because it's also historical romance. But I think there's also a murder mystery in here, and I think it's gonna be the same thing of like feminist, strong female lead. That's what we can hope for at least. Getting into another classic that I just can't believe that I've not read yet, The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This book has Asperger's rep, which I think is wonderful. The only other book I've read that has that, I think, is The Rosie Project. I enjoyed that book. I think that this one is very, very, very frequently rated 5 stars. I see people talk about this book when they talk about The Hating Game and Red, White, and Royal Blue. I feel like this is such a staple in those romantic comedy books that I just can't wait to get to it. And then another one kind of in that same vein is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is enemies to lovers, but in a Renaissance fair setting. Doesn't that sound so fun? I also love this cover. I love that mint green seafoam color. Beautiful. Next is Wild at Heart by K.A. Tucker. I have been talking about The Simple Wild so much here recently. Wild at Heart is a continuation of the Wild series. In The Simple Wild, it's about this woman who lives in Canada, but she finds out that her father is sick and he lives in Alaska. So she has to go to Alaska, where she finds that her father runs this plane company. She gets there, she kind of becomes enemies with one of his pilots, and then from there, it's a will they, won't they, enemies to lovers, but it also focuses a lot on family. There's a lot of family drama. It's also very heartwarming. It reminded me of a Hallmark movie, and I really want to read this in November. I also got Holiday Lights by Debbie McComber. I have no idea what this book is about, but I got it because I see Debbie McComber's name every time I go anywhere, and I want to see what she's all about. And lastly, No Judgments by Meg Cabot. I checked this out from the library a few months ago, but didn't finish it by the time that I had to take it back to the library, and I was quite enjoying it. It's about this woman who kind of takes it upon herself to, when after a hurricane, a bunch of pets get separated from their owners, and so she is trying to like not rehome the pets, but like help reconnect the pets with their families. So she's rescuing all of these animals, no questions asked. This has a low Goodreads average rating, I'm pretty sure, but I liked what I started of it, and I also think that the premise sounds cool, so I am now the proud owner of this book. All right, we did it. We're done here. That was the end of the haul. I was gonna make some kind of bad joke about someone please come take my credit card away, but I don't know, I thrifted a lot of these books. I got a lot of these books on sale, but even if I didn't, books really bring me joy in what has been a really tough year for not just me, but for everybody. And I kid you not, when every day at the end of the day I turn off all my lights except for my little string lights around my shelves, and I just sit and look at my books while I'm reading. I just sit there and I just love looking at them. It brings me peace, it brings me happiness, and that is why I have accumulated so many books recently. So thank y'all so much for watching. I hope everyone's having a good week. I hope you're going to have a good weekend. It's Thursday when I'm filming this, so I'm so ready for the weekend. Let me know in the comments if any of the books I talked about in this haul are things you think I need to push on up in my priority list, and I will see you guys in the next video.